Welcome, everybody. If you please stand for Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, we pray for sunshine, safe travel, time with family and friends, peace of mind, and a happy heart. In your name, we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Roll call.
Ms. Lease?
Here.
Mr. Bryan?
Here.
Mr. Beck?
Here.
I move approval of the minutes, regular minute meeting from June 14th, 2022.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bryan?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lease?
Aye. I move approval of fiscal officer report, June report.
Second.
Do I need roll call for the report? You're just giving the report, right?
Yes.
That's
Oh.
when he said second.
I was wondering about that. Threw me off.
You ready for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We just say fiscal officer's report.
Did I say something?
It says approval of. That's read
Okay,
what's
I'm
written.
sorry, I read what's written.
Our master checking account, 8376, contains a balance of $6,652,804.48. The HRA account, we just had to move $20,000 to it. It had gone down to $5,077. So it's now at $25,077.32. The meter investment account is at $8,208,528.20. We got a notice that as of the 15th of this month, we should be receiving the second half of the ARP funds, totaling $788,033. In, where did I put my funds? Some of our major fund balances. General fund has $2,765,155.50. The police fund has $1,139,191.54. The fire fund has $546,268.13. Safety services fund has $2,778,396.41. That was all that I have.
Okay, any questions? Okay, we're moving on to a presentation. Ken Lawless, which is a great deputy name, retirement proclamation. So, Ken, do you want him to come up to the podium? That way we'll, come on, step on up.
Get up there.
Come on, Ken. Yes. Okay, I'm going to read this, and then we'll come down and get a picture with you. Proclamation, recognizing the law enforcement career and contributions of retiring Hamilton County Sheriff Deputy Ken Lawless. Whereas Ken Lawless, retiring deputy of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, has served the law enforcement for the last 30 years and is well respected by fellow law enforcement officers, civilian employees, and volunteers. And whereas his career began with the Sheriff's Office in 1992, and he was promoted to Road Patrol in 1996 and assigned to District 3 and Symmes Township in 1996. He has spent the last 26 years of his career. And whereas during his tenure with the Sheriff's Department as the deputy in Symmes Township, he was responsible for 8,733 dispatch calls, taken over 1,505 police officer reports, participated in 701 criminal arrests, issued over 2,153 traffic citations, taken 1,528 crash reports, performed 1,124 vacation checks, and made over 16,284 crime prevention contacts. And whereas not only has Ken initiated such initiatives taking measures to address the modern-day challenges of the law enforcement community, he, along with other members of his department and District 3 Command, have mentored and trained other officers throughout the county, striving to proactive in all areas of effective policing. And now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Symmes Township Board of Trustees, hereby recognize retiring officer Ken Lawless for his legacy of service in law enforcement to the residents of Symmes Township and surrounding communities, expressing their deepest appreciation for their dedication and commitment to citizens of the township and its police department, and extend to Ken and his family our best wishes for many years of happiness in the future. Now, therefore, it being further resolved that we, the Symmes Township Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim that Saturday, September 3rd, 2022, be recognized as Ken Lawless Day throughout the Symmes Township and the surrounding community. Duly adopted this 12th day of July, 2022, in regular session. And all three of the trustees have signed it. Congratulations. Give us some comments before we come on down.
Well, I really appreciate it. I do. It's been a long time, and I do appreciate you guys doing that for me.
What's most memorable about Symmes Township?
Were you here for the tornado?
Been here, I've been here the entire
Okay.
time. I've been here my entire career, so not necessarily always in Symmes, but I've always been here. So the district's always been in Symmes. So
shootings, the riots.
yeah, it all blends together. I'm too old to remember stuff anymore.
Over
Well,
700
looking back on
arrests.
it, would you do it again?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
It's always been good here. That's why I've never put in to go anywhere else or anything like that. And, you know, I've always been treated well over here. The people are good and stuff like that. So I don't have any complaints. Just getting too old to do it anymore.
So what's on tap after retirement?
Hopefully get to do some traveling. I'll probably stay on as a special and do some things here and there, but hopefully not too much.
Or reserve force going.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I want to talk a little bit about Ken. I've known him his entire career. He has worked here for his entire career, and it's because of the support that the officers who work here get from the elected officials. Whether it's the fire department, we work hand in hand with them, the citizens. It's unlike some other areas in this county or even in this country. So we do recognize the support. We appreciate the support. Ken's doing what I hope to be doing in a few years myself, walking out of here with your head up. He's served the citizens well. He's done everything we've asked. Your father hired him. So your father hired what I like to say is kind of some of our very best officers, some of the brightest, me being one of them. He hired also. But your dad had a talent for picking people and getting them out there and knowing what the elected officials want, and that, you know, is providing a service. I say it all the time to him. He's getting ready to laugh. Service is our only product. We don't make anything. We simply provide a service to the citizens, and you guys help us do that, and we're appreciative. I'd like to present him with one of our challenge coins. We don't give these out to just anyone. He has risen to the challenge for the sheriff's office and kind of what we are seeing, what we want in our officers, and even going into the future, expectations from the citizens have changed, therefore we have to kind of change, and he's met that. So thank you for allowing us to recognize Ken, especially where he's called home for 30 years. So
Good for him.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we'd all like to get a picture. Yeah, gotta get your picture. I'm gonna stay right here because I have a broken foot, so yeah, I'd have to hobble. You want to come up?
I'll come up.
Yeah, that's fine. Come on, everybody squeeze in.
Turn that off.
Picture.
I'm gonna move your chair.
I can move. Do you want to?
yeah, you'll have a little word on you.
Squeeze on up, everybody. Come on in. I don't bite.
Set up the background.
Yeah. Big day.
Yeah.
That looks better.
Even though your glare is kind of still weird to think about it, since it's a day, it's like Groundhog's Day every day. You guys squeeze in.
You guys look tall up there. That's why Jody wanted to.
Yeah. You guys want to come on up? All the
Yeah, come
sheriffs.
on,
Wait,
get up
we need the
there.
sheriffs to come up.
It's also for him. I'll get in the back.
Yeah.
Stand next to Ken.
Geez,
Makes-
mate,
makes me
now
look
we
better.
won't look tall anymore.
Like we all can stand on our tippy toes. Come on up here, I'm not gonna bite you.
Say something. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You too. Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you. We'll see ya.
We're working hard. Thanks. I'll reach out to you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one, Roger.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Congratulations. Happy, yeah. Take care of yourself. Okay, we're moving on to the public hearing. Zone change, major revision received by Greg Malone, applicant representing Castode 2 LLC owner for a major revision to allow the creation of an out parcel in front of the existing Kohl's store for the purpose of constructing a future additional commercial building utilizing existing parking lot space and access point at 9201 Fields Erdel Road on the south side of Fields Erdel, parcel number 620-0190-0060. Okay. Who's teeing it up?
Brian's at the ready.
I will. Good evening. Brian Snyder, Hamilton County Planning and Development. You should have a copy of the staff report that was prepared for this case. This is a major revision, which is a type of zone amendment. The history of this site goes back to the 80s. This was part of a much larger development site at the time that it was approved originally for a zone change from A residence to double E planned retail. That was back before Governor's Way was created, before Fields Erdel was relocated. And it included all the properties to the west, to the east, to the south, all the way to Montgomery Road. Following that initial approval, there have been several other cases, two specific other major revision zone amendment cases that were approved in 1993 and in 2000 to modify the original preliminary development plan that was approved for this site. The most recent case that specifically involved the development of this property where the Kohl's, Burger King, and the Sofa Express, I believe, I'm not sure what it is now, are located, was 1993. At that time, all the buildings that exist on the site were approved as part of the 1993 case and constructed as part of the 1993 case. With the exception of the Burger King on the corner, that might have been developed under the original 1988 plan. In fact, I think it was. Following that, because this was part of a larger site, there was another major revision in 2000 that related to the Big Lots development that used to be to the west of this site that is now the King's Honda. There have been a number of other final development plan modifications. The difference between a final development plan modification and a major revision relates to the legislation that was passed by the trustees to create the original zone change. If there are conditions included in that, for instance, square footage maximums for buildings or maximum number of buildings, those things cannot be changed by the zoning commission as part of a final development plan modification. The only people that can change the legislation that was passed by the trustees are the trustees. So that's the reason that some things go through final development plan modification and some things go through the full zone change process as part of a major revision. This is one of those. There's a condition currently on the site that limits the site to 3 buildings. The former Sofa Express, I'm actually not sure if it still is. I keep saying former, but it might still be Sofa Express. Kohl's, no, the former Sofa Express, perfect, thank you. The Kohl's and the Burger King are the 3 buildings that were approved as part of that condition. And those are the only 3 buildings that are permitted on the site. To increase the number of buildings to 4 requires a major revision. That's exactly what Casco would like to do. The proposed change would allow for an additional outlot out by the entrance onto Fields Erdel Road, between the Burger King and that entrance, in front of the Kohl's store. They are proposing creating a 1.3 acre parcel. They've submitted a preliminary development plan for a possible 4,300 square foot building, or 4,800 square foot building, with the associated parking and dumpster areas, signage. They've submitted a concept plan of what could be developed on their 1.3 acre site. Details as far as what would be built there would have to go through the zoning commission as part of a final development plan approval. That's the way that the zone change process is set up in Symmes Township. There's a conceptual approval process that comes through the trustees. If you feel like it's a good idea, the trustees approve it. And then the owners go out and spend the money to do all the detailed construction documents and get everything ready. They take those back to the zoning commission as part of a future public hearing. So everybody that's notified for all these meetings would also be notified before the details were approved by the zoning commission, and then somebody would be able to build it. So where we're at in the process is the end of the conceptual zone amendment process, which, as I stated, includes a 4,800 square foot building in this case. Staff did review this at the Regional Planning Commission level and prepared a Regional Planning Commission staff report. The land use plan for this site calls for retail. This is a retail development. There's no issue with the land use plan. The Regional Planning Commission found consistency with the plan as well. No dedication of right-of-way for the thoroughfare plan is required as part of a major revision. As far as zoning compliance, there's a couple of issues. They've got a 26-foot rear yard setback where a 50-foot setback is required. It's from the parcel line that they're creating in the middle of the lot. I don't think anybody will notice it. Being less of a setback, the 50-foot setback requirement is really related to providing for maintaining separation between non-compatible land uses. Obviously, Kohl's and a outlot and the Burger King would all be compatible uses. They're all retail uses, so staff supported that variance. They have shown areas for landscaping that would comply with the code. A detailed landscaping plan would have to be submitted as part of the final development plan, so we noted that. The same with lighting. They've not indicated any lighting, but any new lighting would be required to have a lighting plan prepared and approved by the zoning commission as part of the final development plan. They are asking for additional wall signage, and they're asking for basically twice the amount of wall signage that they're allowed on their second facade because they have frontage on both Union Cemetery and Fields Erdel. They're allowed to have signage on those two facades facing those two streets. And they're asking for double the signage, I guess, on the side facing Union Cemetery. At this point, staff typically doesn't see details on signage. We're recommending that the variance not be granted, simply to allow the signage to be presented to the zoning commission as part of the detailed package of final development plan submittal. And then the zoning commission has the authority to consider their request at that point. There's an issue with landscaping. There's a landscape plan that was approved in 1993. Some of the landscaping has been removed on the Kohl's parcel. The property owner is not proposing to make any changes at all to the existing Kohl's or the other property, and only the Kohl's and the outlot are actually part of this request. So the Kohl's would stay the same. Staff just pointed out that there's some missing landscaping along the streetscape on Fields Erdel that's required, and the applicant has agreed to reinstall that landscaping along the street. No other changes would happen to the existing Kohl's parcel or the rest of the parking lot that's not part of the outlot. And then finally, the site is overparked as far as zoning is concerned by a lot. They can lose the parking for the building and landscaping in the outlot, provide the parking for both the retail potential restaurant use, which is a high number of required parking spaces, along with the Kohl's. The total site has an additional 58 parking spaces above the requirements, even minus the spaces that they're losing. So they're not even close to having a parking issue as far as the complying with the zoning code. Those are the issues that were identified in the staff report. There was a recommendation of approval from the staff with 3 conditions and 1 variance. The variance being to the rear yard setback. This was presented to the Regional Planning Commission. The Regional Planning Commission held a public meeting and officially recommended approval of the request unanimously, I believe. There was also a zoning commission public hearing that was held. This process is laid out by state law, so it followed that process. Regional Planning Commission recommendation of approval, public hearing with the township zoning resolution or zoning commission. The Township Zoning Commission recommended approval 4-1 with the conditions and variants that are included in the staff report. So that is how it came to you today. It's got a recommendation of approval from staff, from the Regional Planning Commission, and from the Zoning Commission with the 3 conditions and 1 variance that I noted. There's a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's all I have.
We don't know what the effect on Union Cemetery is going to be with traffic, do we?
So the Hamilton County engineer will be involved in the review of the building permit. If the county engineer feels like there's any other signalization or lane widening or extension of turn lanes, they will require it before they allow the use to be approved.
Okay. Any questions, gentlemen?
There's, in the report, there's several agency reports that not yet received. Do you see any of those once received being an issue?
I do not know.
Okay.
To go through stormwater and infrastructure, they will have to provide detention if required on site. So they'll have to comply with those requirements. That's another part of the building permit review. They're not going to build anything without sewer. I know public sewer exists. If they can't get the capacity, then nothing will ever be built. The township fire department is involved in the building permit review, so if there's any safety things that they need, they'll get it at that point. Waterworks, obviously, there's water. Soil and water will review grading, but there's not, this is a flat site, so I don't see any issues there. As I stated, county engineer will get what they need, if they need anything, at the building permit point. And then, obviously, the township trustees report is, that's what we're here for.
Okay.
Thank you. You said this is a potential restaurant?
They have provided parking for it to be a restaurant. So restaurant uses require the most parking, and so I believe their intent is to leave their options open for a restaurant by allowing it to have enough parking for a restaurant.
I was just saying, I don't see any drive-through.
There is a revised plan that was submitted. We had this issue at the zoning commission. They did submit a plan that showed a drive-through.
Okay.
I thought this was the revised one.
Is this I believe that the revised one had a drive-through on it. This one is the one that came out of the staff report.
Which side? A drive-through will be on which side?
As soon as I'm done, I'm going to go find out if we have a revised plan or not.
Why don't you go and look?
Okay. That is the original plan that was in the staff report. And I believe those are the documents that you were given.
So if they need a drive-through, they'll just add it later? Can they do that?
It's one of the details, the reason why it wasn't brought up in the staff report as to whether they did or didn't. If it's one of those final development plan details. If it's a restaurant that has a drive-through, it can be a restaurant that has a drive-through in the EE district. Drive-throughs are permitted, restaurants are permitted. And obviously not knowing the user and this being the conceptual zone change process that's laid out in the Symmes zoning code, these kind of details are typically not known at this point.
Okay, now you stated if this were a restaurant, that the 48 parking places would be adequate for that size.
Correct.
And that's the most, if it were a retail business or something went in there, would be a reduced number of parking spaces required?
Yes, correct. Restaurant requires 1 space for every 100 square feet, which is the most
Okay.
for any retail use. All the other retail uses are 1 to 200, and then office is even lower than that.
Anyone else? Anything else, Brian?
No,
Okay.
that's all I have. Thank you.
So now I believe we have to open it up to anyone else that would like to make a comment. Anyone?
Do you want to go first, or are we going to go? Is it
Doesn't
appropriate
matter,
to go?
whoever wants to go.
We just want to hear everybody. so
Yep.
All right.
One at a time.
I just wanted to give the owner the opportunity to talk first if he wanted to. Good evening, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Matt Fellerhoff. I'm an attorney at Strauss Troy. I represent the property owner adjacent, the Burger King property that's adjacent. Mr. Khan is here as my client. Mr. Khan appeared in front of the Regional Planning Commission, and we both appeared in front of the Zoning Commission. At the outset, I'm going to express my concern about the process that's being used here today. And I'm not going to go into great detail because I've talked to your law director about this and had a brief conversation with Mr. Schneider about this, and I raised this at the Zoning Commission. Under Ohio Revised Code Section 5.1, this is already zoned PD. It's a planned development. It's been approved. The zoning has already changed. The statute dealing with PUDs in Ohio explicitly states that once that legislative change has happened, any amendments to that PD that happen later go through an administrative process where it can be appealed through 2506 appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. There's a hearing, there's sworn testimony, that sorts of thing, so that that the Zoning Commission and this Board of Trustees can rely on what is said below because it's under oath. This is a situation which isn't under oath. And I think it's something that it's being argued we can't appeal. I think it's inappropriate for this to proceed as it has, and I think it is appropriate for this to be remanded back to the Zoning Commission under 519.021 to have a proper hearing. But regardless, we're going forward, and I'm going to get off of that right now. But it's important because this discussion that just occurred, that the question that was raised about the drive-through is evident of the concerns that my client has. We don't know what's going to be there. There is no entitlement to this change to the PD. There's no requirement that this Board of Trustees granted. It only is granted if this board thinks at this time this is a good idea. Now, there was the discussion of the drive-through. I was paying attention to that because this happened at the Zoning Commission. Originally, the drive-through plan was put up, and then it was removed and pulled back and said, oh, that's not the plan. The plan that's in front of you is in front of it. It's actually I noticed when the files were being pulled up, I believe the drive-through plan is in the list of files that could be pulled up that are on that computer. There's one that says with drive-through. And if we could get that, it showed up on the screen because I was interested to see what plan is going to be presented to this board. Well, it says no drive-through, and then I think the April 2 one,
Brian,
the fourth from the bottom.
The applicant did submit originally a plan that had a drive-through, and then the plan that they actually submitted for the zone change is this plan that does not have the drive-through.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the one we're going with.
There is another
Here's the one
plan
with the
that was part of the
This is the one that
record.
we presented at zoning commission, and I was told that it was wrong, so I'm confused.
Well, we're confused.
May I attempt?
I was gonna say the applicant's sitting in the room, so we can ask him.
I'm happy to address that.
So hold on. I appreciate that, but just for, Mr. Fellerhoff, why don't you go ahead and continue, instead of bouncing back and forth?
Certainly.
Let's have one continue, and then the applicant can address that.
My client, Mr. Khan, owns the Burger King. He's very concerned about this because once this is approved, there's some minor regulatory approvals that can happen after this, but once this decision is made, there's very little control over what can happen on that property.
Wouldn't everything
Other
have to
than
go
other than
through
zoning
zoning?
board.
It has to go through zoning board, but they have an absolute entitlement to put something on that property, and you don't know what it is.
We do know what it is.
Does it have a
Well,
drive-through or doesn't?
No, we don't know what it is.
We don't know what the business is, but we know what the building is.
No.
The outline.
No. If you can look at those two different versions, it's two different versions showing a different orientation of the building.
But we were told that we shouldn't even have this up because this isn't the one we're referencing.
But my understanding of the testimony is that building is what can end up, there could be numerous configurations that will happen on this property. And that is our concern. So getting back to that, there is no entitlement that this property owner has to this. My client owns the Burger King. My client also has rights to all of the parking on the Kohl's parking lot. He can change the use on that property, and because of the deed, in this deed, he is entitled to use any of that additional parking on that parking lot. That plan, whatever that plan is going to deny him the ability to use the most valuable parking on his parking lot. And this isn't a reciprocal plan where he can use the parking on the Kohl's parking lot and Kohl's can use his parking. No, he is absolutely entitled to use all of the parking on the Kohl's parking lot. They can change the parking, but he is entitled to use all that parking. So if this plan is approved, my client, by deed, has every right to use every parking space on that outlot. And when you're considering the parking for that outlot, the potential uses that my client might have should be considered. Additionally, my client is concerned because there is a drive-through on the Burger King property. And he is very concerned because he doesn't know what the configuration is going to be of a potential drive-through that could conflict potentially with his drive-through. And he is very concerned. He has a tenant there. It's a very valuable tenant that he wants to keep. This approval could prevent that tenant from staying. And for this Board of Trustees to approve a plan without a potential user, without any of that, frankly, we ask that the board don't not approve it, particularly with all these different configurations. There is a requirement in the code that the neighboring property owner's concerns be considered. The neighboring property owner's concerns haven't been considered. We've been left out of the process. For instance, so this property, if the property owner wants to have an outlot on this property, there is a very large parking lot. This building could be put in the top left corner or right corner, depending on which way you're looking. It could be put anywhere else on that property, but instead it is being slammed against my client's property, interfering with his rights to use that parking and potentially his opportunity, potentially interfere with future uses and his current tenant. It's a great concern for my client. There is no requirement that this board approve this tonight. There is no entitlement to it. The property owner can find a user with a plan and present one plan instead of multiple different plans that could change, where the Board of Trustees can see what actually goes in there and then make the approval. That might give my client the assurance that perhaps there won't be an interference. There could be the opportunity to talk about it. The property owner could locate it somewhere else on the property, but if it's going to be located in this area, I think this Board of Trustees needs to know what's going to be there. Now, this is changing the number of units on this property from, I think it's from 3 to 4. Is that correct, Brian? Yep. At the zoning commission meeting, I explained that the last plan was well thought out, and it was a planned development where 3 buildings were determined to be there, and adding 4 without consideration of these planning concerns I've raised was irresponsible. There was a response saying that, oh, when this was decided and laid out, no planning occurred. It really wasn't planning. They just put buildings on the parcel. Well, this is supposed to be a planned unit development. Planning is supposed to occur. If it didn't happen then, we ask that planning happen now. And to do proper planning, this board should understand what's going to go in there, and don't leave it to the whim of whatever the property owner finds, and then have my client be, fighting back to try to get back to square one. This is going to affect my client significantly. I have seen in other cases where general approvals are made like this, and there's a description of, oh, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to go on in there. And 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, a full, well-developed plan is submitted for, administrative approval, which clearly happened beforehand, clearly was ready to go beforehand. I think it's the responsible thing and the planning thing to do in this instance is to wait until there's a plan and an actual user. And if the property owner then has that plan, a specific plan that is going to be approved, then submit it and let it be considered by the zoning commission and then the board of trustees. At this point, I think it's irresponsible to just approve a blank square on a piece of property that's going to have a negative effect on my client. And for that reason, we ask that you deny this approval. Do you have anything else to say, Ray?
Briefly.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'm not an attorney, by the way.
Why don't you give us your name?
My name's Ray Kahn, and I live on Weil Road, okay? So I've been here at this location for 30 years, okay? And I think the community's a great community. And by the way, I've done things with the gentlemen here, and they're good people. We're all good people here, okay? But we do have a fairly strong difference of opinion. I won't give you the legal. I'll try to tell you practically what's happening. If this building right now or new parcel were being proposed on the other side, I would not be here, okay? It's obvious that Coles doesn't want it there, okay? And I think that would bear out in any discovery or deal that they're not wanting it there. That's for the same reason I don't think it's good for me where it is. So all I can do is give you the common sense. It's jamming lines of sight, traffic, in a way that is not advantageous for our property. And there is the potential for problems. Here again, if I knew right now what that was and it was just basically retail space, I may have no issue. If you look at the other plan that was up, the development immediately adjacent to me and the other plan is much more intense than the development here, meaning fewer parking spaces available. So it does substantively change the character of my right for the cross parking.
So that is you right there.
Yes.
And that is, it's not so focused. Matt, thank you, client's right there. Right?
Yes.
Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
And so I'm just saying, but if you flip to the other plan, we're looking at two plans. There are fewer parking places over close to me, and the development's more intense, dumpsters, different things. I haven't seen it all because I think the plan is evolving somewhat because they don't know what it is. All I'm saying is it's the not knowing what it is, the inability for me to know that is a part of this. The other thing to know is I have no idea 30 years ago what would be here exactly or what the evolution of the property is. But while I may not be here in 30 years, my estate or people that I care about will be owning the property. So we care about it 30 years from now. So all I can say is this decision, if the building were to the other side, I would not be here tonight. It's being jammed over against us, and we think without true consideration of the potential, not just current issues to me, but the long-term issues, which are more important. It fundamentally changes the character of my right to the cross parking easements, because I have to jump over a whole other development to have reasonable parking. You know, whatever happens here, I believe we'll be good neighbors, okay, to people. It's not that type of thing. If it weren't, though, yeah, I could tell all my employees to park in their parking spaces, and they couldn't do it. It's just the act of going over there when there's other space is what we find is pretty proof that this isn't the right thing to do. So that's all I have to say.
Who's next?
Good evening. Greg Malone with Casto, 250 Civic Center Drive, Columbus. And thank you for hearing our case. We are the owner of the property, and we're the applicant of the property. And you know, this was developed roughly Kohl's opened roughly 27 years ago. And everything that is shaded on the plan is now under the Kohl's lease. We own that, but Kohl's has control of everything shaded through their lease for more than 15 more years. So we started working with them several years ago. It's a process to go through. We started working with them several years ago to try to determine how to make more efficient use of the property. They've operated here for over 27 years. They have almost 1,200 stores. So they really have good knowledge and good experience of what they need to operate. And so over the time, we came up with this plan. And while I do appreciate, you know, others' opinions and respect their opinions, I couldn't disagree more with most of what was said by our opposition, which I'm sure is no surprise. But you know, the reason that the parcel is where it is located now is pretty evident. If I may approach and show you these photos. These are photos from 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, and 2021. So that's 2005. This is Kohl's. I outlawed our proposal in blue. This is Mr. Khan's property, the Burger King. These were not taken on a Sunday at 7 o'clock when there was nobody around because the Kohl's parking lot is busy. If you observe where the Kohl's parking lot is busy and where it is not busy, then that is the logic behind where each one of these over a 20-year period, it shows exactly where the parking is being utilized and where it is not. 2010. And so that is the reason that Kohl's will allow a parcel to be created where it is now underutilized and just vacant parking lot that hasn't been used during their entire occupancy. And there's also photos of Mr. Khan's parcel. I believe he has somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 parking spaces. And if you evaluate the parking on those days when it was taken, there's probably 5 or 6 spaces used out of his 40. He knows what he needs to operate, so I'm just making a comment on that. But to answer the questions on the differences in the layouts, the layout that you're looking at now was prepared for an informal public hearing with Symmes Township in February. So this was prior to us making the formal application. We had to have a preview meeting with Kim and Brian. So that plan was based on the preview meeting that we had, And then it didn't have nearly the level of detail that the plan that we modified on the application that we made. The parcel size, the dimensions of the parcel, the location of the parcel, the access to the parcel, nothing changed between what we submitted and talked about in February versus what's on the actual application, because that's not the plan that's on the actual application. But, there could be a business that might utilize a drive-through on this plan, because right now, why do we not know who this is going to be occupied by? Because we don't have a parcel. I mean, we have an 8.6 acre Kohl's parcel. We don't have anything to market. We worked with Kohl's for about close to 3 years to come to an agreement, come to an economic agreement, come to a location configuration agreement. And, we've been working with staff and now we've been working with staff since February, and now we're here before you in July. So, we're trying to get parameters established, size, maximum building, signage. We're trying to get the parameters established so we can then go find a user. Once we do that, we have to come back to get a final development plan approved, and we know that, and we're fine with that. I mean, we have to be fine with it because it's a requirement. And so, the issue with not having anything to market, to bringing in a user, to then go through a 7, 8, or 9 month process, the likelihood that you keep someone, in your interest level for almost a year, it starts diminishing your ability to actually deliver a user. I mean, most users today want to know, can this be done or can it not be done? And so we're trying to be able to market this site with some degree of certainty. From the photos that I've given you, I mean, it's a vacant parking lot. It hasn't been used by anybody except truck drivers that park there illegally. And we want to make a more efficient use of it. We'd like to make, to bring another business to the township, to employ people, to generate sales tax and property tax. The Regional Planning Commission unanimously approved this. Symmes zoning approved it. To address the sewer issue, we have a sewer availability letter that I believe we provided you. So there is sewer capacity for this site. In regards to commenting on traffic, I've been involved in doing development here, not as long as Mr. Khan, but close. I've been involved in development here since 1991. I actually developed the Kohl's in 93, went through the zone change, and I worked for a different company at the time. Since the time this corridor was developing into a commercial node, and today, there's been over 250,000 feet of retail taken out of Symmes Township. The former Walmart moved to Mason Montgomery Road in 2007 or 8. Then that became a JCPenney. The JCPenney is now gone. A different Casto entity owned that property, and we actually transacted with Mr. McCluskey to sell that property to him to convert it. So that property has gone from a Walmart that opened in 1988 that probably did $100 million worth of business a year, $100 at a time. And Mr. McCluskey's going to sell, whatever he sells, $100 million worth, but it's going to be $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 transaction at a time. And so the number of transactions and the traffic associated with that is going to diminish greatly. To the left of this plan, or that would be to the west, the former retail there was taken out of service as retail, and that has become an automotive operation as well. And so there's been over 250,000 feet of retail removed from Symmes Township. What other, let me see if there's another question that I could use or answer for someone. You know, there is a recorded easement in place between the two parcels. I wasn't involved in that. It's open for a lot of interpretation. Our interpretation of the Burger King owners' rights is considerably different than what was discussed here. They have limited rights. We believe this plan doesn't diminish or remove any of their existing rights. But on the other hand, that's a private matter between private owners, and I think they may be asking you as a public authority to rule and enforce that. And I don't know that that's the right request for this board. And I do think we'll be good neighbors. I do think we'll work out our differences, but we don't agree with their interpretation of their rights. And then, when this was developed, this is an exhibit to a recorded document that is the easement. And so the red is Mr. Kahn's parcel. The blue is our outlot. And then, I got a couple of these. So the blue is our outlot that we are proposing. The building that's shaded in black was what was contemplated when the agreement was signed. Do you want to? That's what was contemplated when the agreement was signed, and I think it was in.
Do you have an extra copy of that, both for the file and for the attorney for the property owner?
It's recorded.
I understand. You're showing it to the trustees and they can't see it.
So, what's in blue is the proposed parcel, or is the proposed out parcel. This property wasn't developed the way it is shown on this exhibit, because behind Mr. Kahn's parcel, what is in yellow or orange is now what is the appliance factory. So it wasn't developed this way. But he didn't have any problem with it changing, because it wasn't developed the way it was contemplated. But it was contemplated that there was going to be a building, for we're proposing a building. And we have the right to do that. And we have the right, provided you approve our zoning. I mean, that declaration gives us the right to change and reconfigure the parcel from time to time, and that's all we're requesting. And we have a disagreement in interpretation with that adjacent owner, but I'm hopeful that we'll resolve it. Let's see. Oh, last point on parking, on his rights to parking. I will continue to own the Coles if this is approved. You will require me to self-contain all of the parking that Coles needs. You'll require that, so we'll have to do it. Whatever I put on the 1.3 acres, you will require me to self-contain all the parking that use requires on my 1.3 acres. Whatever Mr. Kahn does with his property tomorrow, 10 years from now, or 30 years from now, whatever he redevelops that, you're going to require him to self-contain his parking with whatever use he has on his parcel. So there is a cross-parking language in this agreement, and it's vague and ambiguous. And it's a separate matter from what this board addresses. That's between us two property owners that we'll resolve. But you're going to require each one of those parcels to self-contain the parking it needs. And so to say that, that there's going to be, inadequate parking, I think you can make that comment. I just disagree with it. Happy to answer any questions. Look forward to your favorable approval.
Any questions?
Other than a restaurant, what could you conceivably picture for that parcel?
Well, under this application, we have a limit on the square footage. So we're asking for 4,800 feet. This could be with what Mr. McCluskey is doing, all of the existing tenants in the 48,000 square foot building adjacent to the vacant J.C. Penney's, the ones that are still there are being displaced. They're being relocated. So there are tenants in that building that we've talked to. We've talked to all of them about, their interest in staying in Symmes Township and staying in the area.
Well, they have to, part of the
Well,
agreement, yeah.
They don't have to if they refuse his offer.
Oh, no, that's true.
But McCluskey, what
Has
she's
to.
really trying to say is McCluskey was challenged to relocate those businesses within Symmes Township.
Within Symmes Township.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's separate matter from us, but
Right.
those, that's good information for me to know. So, but those could be potential uses here. So, we could have a commercial retail use, we could have a food service use. Even if you're doing an appliance business or, a Sherwin-Williams business or a food service business, all of those businesses today, to be successful, they need what we call an omni-channel approach. They all have to have the ability to do online sales. They all have to have the ability to do pickup. They all have to have the ability to do delivery. And some of them need the ability to have a drive-through. And so if we have a drive-through on this site, we're going to design it, stack it, park it, so it meets the zoning commission's approval. But business is changing. This year, Macy's forecasts that 50% of their business will be online. So business evolves. I'm kind of getting close to the end of my career, and I'm old, and I don't like evolution. There's a lot of technology I don't like. But it's just a fact, you have to keep up with technology. So.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to make a comment?
I don't want to prolong this, and I just didn't expect the hand up. I have the entire easement here that was discussed, if the benefits of, and I really didn't mean to turn this in. I can come multiple copies.
Thank
There you
you
go.
so much.
And the parking is addressed in paragraph 3. And paragraph 3 indicates specifically that Duke grants and declares for the benefit of Burger King, its agents, customers, invitees, licensees, employees, a non-exclusive easement on and over through all paved parking areas and paved driveways as may be located from time to time upon the retail tract. The whole area. And it goes one way for the benefit of my client. My client has a property right in any parking space that's on that, to use any of the parking spaces that are on that additional tract.
It's said non-exclusive?
Non-exclusive.
But they have the ability to use it.
But they don't have exclusive right to any of the spaces on the lot, right? The reason I apologize,
So-
if I may elaborate on, I just wanted to make this one point. What Mr. Malone said is true. As far as zoning is concerned, you're required to park your use on your lot. You can't use parking spaces on another lot to meet your parking requirement unless you have exclusive use of those parking spaces, because you can't share parking between one retail use and another retail use because they have overlapping hours. So unless they have exclusive rights to any of that parking, they cannot use it to build a bigger building on their property and count on the spaces on Mr. Malone's property to meet the parking requirement. That won't comply with zoning. I just want to make that point. I apologize for interrupting, Mr. Felleroff.
I'm going to state in that many instances, parking has been reciprocal where zoning approvals do require non-exclusive parking on additional lots, so long as they don't conflict. But that's not something I really want to get into right now. I'm just explaining that my client does have a right to use those parking spaces, and they will have the right to use the parking spaces on this approved lot by virtue of this deed. I really don't want to dig into this, and certainly don't want to turn this into an argument over this deed.
Okay. I know for being a coal shopper that there's always plenty of parking. I mean, always, even on Black Friday. So, okay.
Unless there are any questions, I'll sit down.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else would like to make a comment? Okay, I guess.
Let's say it's our law director if he has anything to add.
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Jeff, do you have anything to add to this?
I'm happy to answer any questions that the trustees may have.
Well, the attorney raised the question of legal proceeding.
Mhm.
Can you comment on that?
I can-
Since you've discussed it with him?
Yes, I can tell you that we discussed it briefly this afternoon. I've had the opportunity to discuss it with Mr. Snyder as well, and I'm confident in that the appropriate procedure was followed,
Okay, thank you.
and that it's appropriate. It is appropriate for this board to take whatever action you may decide to take tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm looking at this plan, and this is the plan that I'm to worry about. I'm not thinking of drive-throughs or anything, because if that comes through, that would go through zoning, right?
Go through the zoning commission, yes. No matter what, it will go through the zoning commission, correct.
Okay. Bill, do you have any questions?
Well, on the topic of parking, I was superimposing the February plan with this plan. I didn't see an enormous difference, actually, as far as parking spaces are concerned, even with the drive-through in the February plan. But, I don't want to dig that up any more than we already have. But so the parking, we've got all this existing parking, right? And so that would be considered, I know, non-exclusive, but potentially shared parking, if I understand this correctly. And if there was a huge run on chicken fries, which, believe me, I've spent a fortune at your Burger King with my 17-year-old on chicken fries. So, yeah, we know they drive through well, but if there was then this parking could be shared, is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing? No.
Yes. They have,
It could be shared.
Burger King has the authority, I think both parties agree, that the Burger King users have the authority to park in the spaces on the Kohl's lot.
I mean, they could technically park over there and walk to Burger King, right? By the car dealership if they wanted to. Okay?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
This parcel that we're talking about right now, this location actually provides access and egress from the existing Burger King, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Burger King's property was situated so that it had to meet parking requirements, so many available spaces and so on,
Correct.
all self-contained within this parcel,
Yes.
is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So the need for excess capacity is a question in the back of my mind. Also, the question in the back of my mind is, can Casto or whoever the new property owner is, or whatever, I guess you're going to keep it, is that right, and lease it, Casto's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would not limit access and egress to this restaurant, right? It doesn't have its own, does it?
No.
And, our interpretation.
One more question. Okay.
Okay?
Access to drive-through from here or through here or going around through here, and I've been through it many times myself, but how much access, and you won't limit access to his restaurant from this direction, right?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And we believe that his rights are the 2 curb cuts, access to those curb cuts. We haven't changed them. We're not changing anything about the access to Union Cemetery Road. Between the curb and our adjoining property line, that drive aisle on the east side of the building and the parking that adjoins the Burger King parcel, that head-in parking, that's existing. That's as it exists today. We're not changing it because we believe that he has discretion over that. The drive aisle on the north side of the site, on the north side of the building, between the building and Fields Erdel Road, that goes out to the traffic signal in front of Coles, that goes out all the way out to Fields Erdel Road.
It's way up there,
Yeah.
left corner.
Yeah, the curb cut off of Fields Erdel Road in the middle of the site, and then you come down that drive aisle and you can go all the way parallel to Fields Erdel into Mr. Khan's parking. We're not going to change any of that. You know, that will stay as it exists today. And that is why, you know, we don't think we violated any part of the agreement because we haven't changed anything that exists today that he has discretion over, except we want to put a building here, which is shown on the original exhibit that was signed with the easement, and we have the right to change this as, you know, his legal counsel explained that declaration, and he has rights to parking as it exists from time to time, which means we have the right as the owner to change it. And so we're only doing what we have rights to, and things that he has rights to, we're not changing. But we're not going to change his access at all. We're not going to change curb cuts. We're not changing any access to Union Cemetery or Fields Erdel.
Any other comment?
I'll be brief. I just want to point out that exhibit that keeps being referred to shows buildings that aren't there, but it doesn't show the buildings that are there also. It shows there are added buildings that weren't contemplated under that original plan.
Okay.
So that affected everything. And that was purely illustrative.
This one? This is
That
what you're
one,
talking
yes.
about. Okay.
It doesn't show all the other buildings, and that had an effect on the parking, and that clearly has an effect on the parking. And it's why we're here today, because things have changed dramatically from that plan.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
Like, PUDs are difficult.
Get you on speaker.
Yeah.
PUDs are difficult things for all concerned. I mean, developers, boards, we rely on you. Yes, there are documents, but there's a discretion involved. And what we believe the requirement is for y'all to take into consideration our concerns if they're justified. It is, you know, just up front that this is being jammed over on us because Coles doesn't want it somewhere else. We understand that pictures over the past 10 years can show many differences. So just know I understand that. We're talking about rights that we have that are over a long term, and the only protection we have in terms of doing things that weren't planned is this process, which is the PUD. So we rely on you. That's all I can say. Without your protection, we have none.
Anything else? Okay. I guess, do I have to close it?
Yes.
Yes, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Beck? Well, did you have something else to add, Brian?
Okay.
No, before you voted, I was just going to point out that once the public hearing is closed, you can't ask any questions or receive any testimony from staff or the public. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear.
All right.
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryan?
Aye.
Okay. I move approval of disbursements warrant number 81358-81445 and voucher 147 to 166 in the amount of $938 $1,577.82.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Lees.
Aye.
Mr. Bryant.
Aye.
Mr. Beck.
Aye.
Reports, Mall Director.
Thank you, no report tonight.
Okay. Police? Oh, we lost them too. Fire?
I have no report, Board.
Okay. Director of Public Works? Nope, that's right. Committees? Nope. Other? We're moving to hearing from residents. If any resident would like to come up and have a comment, please, now's your time. Hello. Just please state your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Joanne Michkowski. My husband is Lawrence Michkowski. He goes by Mitch, and we live at 12007 Antietam Drive. And we need your help. And this is our situation.
Okay.
We purchased our home in December of 2018 and moved in later in spring 2019 after some cosmetic improvements. We noticed it, but not so much early on, that there is a safety hazard that we were living with, and that has to do with sump pump water coming out from our neighbor's house, which is 12019 Antietam Drive, which exhausts from a white PVC pipe. These are reading glasses, I can't see.
I know,
White
me too.
PVC, I know, it's like white PVC pipe, middle of their yard, which runs the entire length of our property because the sewer drainage is at the opposite end.
So their sub pump runs through your yard?
Through the gutter. The gutter out front runs to the street.
Oh, okay.
In the gutter, the entire length of our drive.
Okay.
Our property. In front of our mailbox, in front of our driveway, all the way down in front of our yard. In the warm months, there's constant water there, and it creates an algae, that black stuff, algae, and it's slippery. We've seen kids ride their bikes in it. I have slipped on it when I cut the grass in the summertime. We have to kind of step over the curb. The winter is what really gets bad. There's still water that comes out of that in the winter, and the way it projects out into the street, it goes out into the street, but then it starts to freeze, and it creates an ice jam, not only in front of our mailbox to our driveway, and then it narrows, and then it goes into the gutter, but there's ice along the entire gutter. And that's at times when there's no snow, there's no rain actively falling or anything like that. So we had to do some research. Bill Pittman is the one who suggested that we come by. So, the kids play in the ice and stuff, and it's really hard. So we contacted Bill Pittman last fall after trying to reach out to our neighbor themselves last spring. We really noticed it because we got a dog in 2020 right before the pandemic, and so we started going outside more, like various times of the day in the winter and in the spring, so we kind of noticed it more. It's like, why is there always water and ice in front of our house when there isn't ice and water in front of the rest of the houses? My husband actually recorded it last summer. There's water that is flowing from the property. He got about 40 seconds of it, but the water lasted about 2 minutes draining into the sewer. About 50, you wrote down 40 here. So time-wise, so that was, we dealt with it that winter between like 2020 and 21 that we noticed because we're out with the dog. Tried to reach the neighbor. He would not respond to my text message. So then we called Bill Pittman about this time last year, June, July, August of last year, because we didn't know what else to do. He tried to talk to the neighbor. We didn't hear anything, no resolution. So we went through the winter. We called Bill, like, we've got ice, big ice jam in front of our mailbox and on our driveway. And it's very dangerous for us. Obviously, ice is tough for everybody, but my husband's on 3 blood thinners, and if he were to fall, it would be horrible. And we had an ambulance run to our house just last month, and if it had been in the winter, they didn't pull into the driveway, they were on the street, and they would have been on ice. It would have almost been impossible, because that's what happens at the base of our driveway and in front of our mailbox. Going back. So we contacted Bill, so we didn't hear anything. Nothing was resolved all winter, except he would send the truck out to put salt down, but it didn't do any good because the ice gets to be very thick, 3 to 4 inches sometimes. And it goes out into the street by feet, because it kind of comes out, it starts freezing, it jams, it gets wider and wider, and then it somehow narrows back in, and then the ice goes down into the gutter. So, because Bill contacted our neighbor, the neighbor must have, thank you.
Issues.
The neighbor apparently maybe had called Hamilton County Sewer District or whatever. I did my own, research as well. We found out that on our street, all the builders, there's basically 2 builders, Zering and Fisher Home, because we were thinking, well, maybe they had some oddball builder that didn't, do it the right way. His home was built by Fisher. There are 8 out of 23 homes between Antietam and Appomattox that were built by Fisher Home. So we figured that nobody else has water in front of their house, nobody else's sump pumps exhaust to the street, nobody else has black gooey stuff, well, I mean, there might be some, but inadvertent slick stuff in front of their houses. But we do, because we happen to be downhill from their sump pump draining into the gutter in front of our property. And we do have pictures of the ice jams. We do have pictures of the running water down the gutter when the rest of the street is completely dry. I looked under the public health, so from what I could read online, you're not supposed to obviously empty sump pump water into the street, into the gutter, into any paved surface. I found it on the health department as well as the sewer district. Our neighbor apparently was in contact with a Lisa Humble from the plumbing department in Hamilton County. And, basically we try to have neighbors resolve this issue, which really isn't going to happen. That we foresee, because he hasn't done anything about it, despite going through the Symmes Township between Bill Pittman and then Willie when Bill was out. At this point, we're kind of, we don't know what else to do, because we would like. Oh, there was some correspondence from Lisa Humble to our neighbor, and he cited something about being grandfathered in because of a court case that happened, Hamilton County, and in another street, residents' waters going into the street. It was a different situation. There was no court case. Hamilton County prosecutor, everything, nothing came of it. So there is no such thing that we are aware of being grandfathered in. There was no court case because we asked Lisa. So some of the correspondence our neighbors was having, words he was using were just words that were inappropriate because there was no court case and he's not grandfathered in. There is no such a thing that we can tell. We're not attorneys. Thank goodness, right? So we just need help, because we don't want it to get to a point where we do have to hire an attorney, or because we don't want anything to happen to the kids on the street and then they play in the ice. We really don't know what to do.
Got anything on it?
If anything's coming off the property on the public street, in violation of the Hamilton County Health Department can get involved with that?
No, talk to them.
They don't want you.
Nope. They said
They're kicking it back to you.
they kick it back to plumbing, and she's saying that, it's a Symmes Township thing, and we really want neighbors to do it, and we just don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
We don't want to, we tried to start this last fall, and nothing happened, and we dealt with it over the winter. Got none?
Tim or Jeff, you
I'll
have a
let
comment?
Jeff researched it
Help.
greatly.
We know Jeff's been working on this, right?
Oh, you have?
Well, we have,
A little bit?
No, I just don't want you to get, you had a big smile on your face like you were going to get excited. I don't want you to be, because I have talked to Bill about this. We have reviewed it. The issue is that there are regulations in place that prohibit that kind of discharge. They are Hamilton County Health Department regulations. The township has no authority to enforce those regulations. It's only the county that can do it. And I think they're exactly right. Bill, I know even Bill has been in contact with Hamilton County Health, urging them to do what they're supposed to do. And these folks are exactly right. The response that I think everyone has gotten from Hamilton County Health is a reluctance. Yeah, sympathetic, but I mean, I think Bill maybe said something about it's a staffing issue. They don't have the capacity to do that, or they would have to take people to court. The issue that we have, though, and I appreciate that you're here, is that based on the research we've done, we're not sure that a township has any authority to regulate that. It's a sanitary health issue, and that's why the health department has that regulation.
But on their website, it says you are not to put sump pump water, does not supposed to go on a paved street. It says it, if you go to the website and you look up sump pump and you look up sewer.
We completely agree with you that that is not what the regulation allows.
And we called the health department.
My understanding is Bill has talked to the Hamilton County Health. I think a number.
It was Lisa Humble that he
Okay.
communicated with.
Yeah.
That's where we got her name. I also spoke with someone at the health department. His name was Ryan Weist.
I think Lisa's
Or sewer
plumbing.
Yeah, she's plumbing.
Lisa Humble.
She's not health.
No,
No.
she's director of plumbing, but
Health
health
sent
routed
us-
it to her.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. If this is your property, can't you just stop it yourself?
Well, you can.
Well, it's in,
How?
expensive.
Sandbags?
it's in the street.
It's expensive.
It's in front,
It's in the street.
it's in the
not on your
gutter,
property.
you know, the
Okay.
gutter that runs in front of your house.
Okay, the gutter.
But the
Okay.
water shouldn't be there to begin with, except for when it's raining. There shouldn't be water coming out of the
Right.
sump pump in the middle of the winter and it freezes. And it-
Regulations change over timeframes. And I know of several neighborhoods that every downspout drain drains to the street.
Sure,
Through curb cuts, they call them.
Right.
Okay?
right.
And
Which is
when
what-
we redo our roads and so on and so forth, we leave them alone. Okay? So it isn't just your area that may have 4 or 5 of these, if you will. It's a lot of areas around. And I
4 or
don't
5
think-
of what? 4 or 5 of what?
Well, I
Are
thought you said on
discharges.
your street there were
There's-
4 or 5 that
No,
drained.
No, there are 0 in 23 houses built.
Oh, okay.
Just one.
She's the only one.
That's
It's
the
just-
only one?
There are
He's the only
8,
one.
correct.
Okay.
We were thinking maybe it was exclusive to a builder, but
No.
he is one of 8 houses
No,
that
you
were built by
builders you
Fisher.
mentioned have done the curb cuts in Symmes Township.
There is a curb cut for gutter drainage.
Okay,
So what he's routing
To
sump
that
pump and
drainage.
his pool to
okay.
is
Potentially.
a it looks like it's
Yeah.
his pool.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, it's coming through a gutter,
Yeah.
PVC.
Right.
Yes.
Whereas, and we don't have one of those. So like all of our rain discharge goes into the storm
Underground,
sewer.
directly into
But like
the storm.
half of the homes have the concrete cut to drain a gutter. But 2 days after it rains, those gutters are clear
And dry.
and our
Okay.
neighbor's sump pump continues to run 3 days later,
Okay.
With
you
water.
know, no matter whether it's winter or summer.
Right.
Right.
And it's extremely frustrating.
That we can't walk down our driveway in the
But
winter.
it's dangerous. I mean,
Because
it's-
we have to walk in our yard
We
to
can't
get to
get
the
to the mail.
street. We can't get to the
It
mail.
just seems
So-
to me that if it's the only one in your neighborhood.
It is.
That the health department ought to get after them.
They were
Well,
unwilling,
we don't know
sir.
what- that's why we're
They were
here.
unwilling.
Okay.
So-
Question.
So,
Don't we have, somewhere, I know there's a rule, whether it's a powerful rule or an unpowerful rule, but there's somewhere it's written down that you can't do this. You're supposed to stop a sump pump drain. I thought it was approximately 5 feet
It's 15
behind,
feet.
behind the
It's
curb.
15 feet.
15 feet.
From anyone
15.
else's
We ran
property.
into
Health
that with
Department
pool
rules and
backwash and all that
regulations,
kind of
that's
stuff.
15
what she's
feet
saying.
behind.
From our property.
Pop up,
Refuses to enforce their own rules.
yes.
Okay, so So these pipes, okay, so that's one thing. The second thing is these pipes are going through the right-of-way.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's a no-no.
Meaning the street, right, yeah, paved.
Yeah, I mean,
gutter.
anything you
Well,
put in
you
the
don't
right-of-way
own all
is-
your front yard, in other
anything
words.
you put
It's
in the
about 8
right-of-way.
feet of right-of-way.
True, yes.
Yeah.
And
So
the
it's
water
going through
goes,
the
in the
right-of-way to
wintertime,
get
the
to the
ice
curb.
goes
That's
into
what
the
I'm getting
street
at,
by
Ken.
4,
Yeah.
6 feet, because
Yeah.
sometimes it comes out that fast, and when it goes out, it freezes, and then that makes it freeze, and then it jams and dams. And we have pictures.
Okay, so what I was saying is anything that goes through the right-of-way, whether you plant a tree, a bush, a flower bed, or a PVC pipe, is subject to be removed. If it's in the right-of-way, because you don't own the right-of-way. It's a right-of-way. And then the curb is township property, as the street.
But we don't
But-
own the right of way.
Okay, but never
County
does
does.
the private property owner does not. That's my point.
Right, but we don't own it either, we just maintain it.
Okay. So the property owner doesn't own that space, nor do they own the curb or the street, and all of which are being impacted by the situation on many streets throughout the township. So, I mean, this, to me, this qualifies as a nuisance, because that's what it is. It's a nuisance in the summer, it's a nuisance in the winter.
And it's hazardous in the winter for us.
Right.
Or anybody who walks near our house, a
Right.
delivery person, or
We
And-
can't
Can't
dig
get
the
to the
ice
mail.
out.
Right, I know what you're talking about, because
Yeah.
I've seen it on
Right.
many other streets too, throughout the township. And I
Yeah, we-
also don't understand why when we do our road program, we probably should not be cutting those curbs. We should be installing a continuous curb.
Well, it's legal to do downspout drains through the curb cut, I think.
that
Legal or illegal?
Legal.
downspout's fine.
Yeah.
We're talking sump pump, because
Understand.
a downspout's not gonna
But
run in the winter.
We're off on this curb cut issue. now.
Gotcha.
My understanding of and again, the issue here is that the sump pump discharge regulations are county health department regulations. They're not township rules or regulations. And my understanding, at least, and I could be wrong, is that just as you've said, if you're going to have the sump pump discharge, where it discharges has to be at least 15 feet back from,
From anyone else's property,
right.
on your own property.
And the theory there is that if it discharges that far away, theoretically, 15 feet gives you the pervious surface for that to dissipate.
And their website says.
And the other option, though, is that line, the discharge can actually go all the way out and physically tie into the sewer, so that it's not actually discharging onto the street. So they have two options. They can, it's like cut the pipe back way up into the yard so it discharges in the yard, or actually take it even a little farther and physically connect it to the actual storm, the sewer system.
We believe that it was originally connected to the storm sewer system. They pulled two permits, our neighbors did, 2015 and 2017. They put in a pool in 2017, and then they did some basement work or something in 2015. So potentially somebody altered that. We don't know, obviously. We just know what we have to deal with in reference to the water. and ice.
But again, the issue that we have is that whichever of those options that a property owner wants to take, they're all based on Hamilton County health regulations, and that's the enforcing body. I'm happy to look to see if a situation like this could even qualify under our nuisance resolution. And if it does, perhaps that may be an avenue that the township could take. But to my knowledge, this is not an issue that comes up that often for us. I don't believe we've ever, I don't believe we've ever used the nuisance resolution
And see if we can do it.
for this type of situation.
But what we'd really like to do is have the health department do it.
Well, and like I said, I can tell you that Mr. Pittman has been in contact with them a number of times, just
And that's
like
why
these
we're
folks
here,
have,
right?
and
I mean, I spoke with Lisa several times, I got the emails, And like, for example, there was this mention of the court decision, and I'm, okay, well, it's gotta be a docket number or a case number. So I emailed her and said, can you provide us with the case number, because you're all talking about a court decision. And then she clarified, said, no, there was no court in front of a judge. The prosecuting attorney said, we're not gonna pursue it. And that was 2019, where all these houses in the subdivision,
We're draining.
We're draining or sometimes
sometimes
to the street. And they collectively said, no, we don't want to be forced into doing it. Our situation, we believe, is very different, because there are 23 homes in this cul-de-sac. Average price is $500,000, and there's one house that's creating a hazard.
We just happen to be downhill from it.
And we happen to be downhill.
And we don't know what else to do.
If they had a storm sewer drain right at the outlet, it wouldn't be an issue for you.
Well, that's the other solution is,
Yeah.
can a storm sewer be put on his property downstream of where,
That is, so if
Where
there's
it
any.
is.
Or upstream of you guys. really.
upstream,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
North of us or upstream.
Yeah.
And literally, I have it on my phone, but it's a large flow of water, which makes me suspect that it's not just groundwater. Only one reason, because the volume of the water,
Oh,
I mean,
for
the
the
volume
pool?
is
Yeah.
tremendous sometimes.
In
And
the
the
summer.
second is, we had a pool in Kettering, and you have to backwash your pool.
Right.
We don't
And
know where you
normally
backwash.
you connect a blue tube
Right.
that you run out to the street and you backwash your pool. There is no blue tube.
On your own property.
Oh,
hypothetically.
on your own property or
Yes.
wherever, yeah.
There's no active discharge
That
of
we've ever seen,
backwashing that
but-
we've seen.
Yeah.
So it
Anyway.
looks like that's connected to this whole drainage system as well.
Okay,
Hmm.
so can we
Okay.
see if it could be a nuisance?
Yeah, we can definitely explore that.
Okay, we can try that for you and see
And
what we can
how
come
do we
up
follow
with.
up, or who do we, like, contact?
You can talk to Bill or you can talk to Kim, our administrator.
Yep, I'll coordinate with Kim.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And I will
We
also.
appreciate you
I will also,
listening.
I see Greg Kesterman, because I work at the county. I see him, the
Okay.
director. I'll ask him.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
Otherwise,
see-
we're going to have to
I'll
hire
see
our
what
own
we need to
attorney.
do to
really
get
don't wanna
something
do that,
enforced.
But we also want to live safely in Symmes Township because we really like it here.
Right.
So,
We understand.
yeah, thank you
Okay.
all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
I will add
Good
one
luck.
final. Lisa said it would be changed if someone got seriously injured.
Injured.
Yeah, well, that's,
Like, well, we don't really want to wait for that to happen.
Right,
No.
right.
Thanks. All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming
Thank
tonight.
you. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Hello.
Barbara Wilson, 7906 Clement Street, Camp Dennison, Ohio. So I just have a question. I see that 126 from Montgomery, I want to say, through Camp Dennison, all the way down to Milford is going to be repaved. So that gives me question about if that will affect or could possibly hold up, not hold up, but change. We were talking about abandoning that road around the triangle. And because we had discussed the fact of making that turn just a bit wider, where I saw the lines at there's sticks with pink property marks on them. Is that something that's going to possibly affect future plans for that area? Is that something that I'm kind of getting the cart before the horse here, to be honest with you.
When are they repaving, do you know?
They're paving all the way into Milford, so it would be going all the way down 126.
it'll be out.
It was on, it was,
County's doing that, so
it's ODOT.
ODOT.
well, the county's doing it for ODOT, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
it doesn't
I-
have any jurisdictional boundaries like starting at the beginning of Symmes Township or anything like that, so.
Now, it's everything from Montgomery down to,
Milford.
Montgomery.
Indian
Remington?
Indian Village.
Montgomery? Where's Montgomery coming?
Montgomery is Main Street, Montgomery, then it hits Indian Hill, then it comes into Symmes Township, then it goes into Miami Township, and then it comes back into Symmes Township, Columbia, and then the city of Milford.
Okay.
So I didn't know if that would possibly affect the ability for hopefully the curve there, if they're willing to abandon the road. I was just kind of wondering where things stood in that process, if there is a process.
I don't have an update. Do you, Kim? I don't have an update on
I
that.
have a feeling it's going to be a two-step process.
Okay.
They're going to do what they need to do now, and then if we have to change it, it'll have to come as part of the, once we get title to the property and so on, it could come then.
Okay,
That's my feeling.
yeah.
But I think if it's on the schedule and it's going to be done, they're doing it according to the bounds that they already have established.
Right, like they're not going to, obviously,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be
That's my
slated this
guess,
month,
yeah.
so, but I just saw it, and I wanted to ask the question if there was anything that, if they come into Kugler Mill just a tad, how far they're going to come in, and can that curve be?
I have a feeling the contract's already let.
Yeah, I
I made
Especially
a
since-
note. I'll contact Eric Beck and ask.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because,
All
I
right.
mean, as I mentioned before, he was open to these changes in the roads, the local roads, so I'll see what his thoughts are on this.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Good
if he
question.
is.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Do you know for a fact the county is paving it?
They're
No,
supposedly
they got
starting this month.
Bound markers up and so on and so forth down through there, right?
Right.
So it's pretty
They were out
imminent. It's pretty close.
surveying too yesterday,
Okay.
so,
I
But
didn't-
it's the county, not, so the county's doing it on behalf of the state, it sounds like.
ODOT, yeah.
ODOT put out a notification that they were paving the state route 126. I'm assuming through private vendors, not actually the county workers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they farm it out.
Okay, so it is all on the state side.
Yeah.
Got it.
So there's a contract that's already in the works.
They put out
Yeah.
notice for traffic control.
Okay. So ODOT would be the one that's
Right.
And that's,
actually subcontracting this out to someone.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Just thought I'd ask the question.
I personally wasn't aware of it,
Okay,
so thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Correspondence, events and meetings. Get to my page here. Zoning Commission meeting Wednesday, July 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Safety Service Center. Story time with the library Monday, July 25th, 2022 from 10 to 10:30 at Home of the Brave Park. Board of Zoning Appeals meeting Monday, August 1st, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Safety Service Center. Regular trustees meeting Tuesday, August 3rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Safety Service Center. Old business, we have none. New business. I move approval of G 2022-76 resolution approving a zone change from EE Planned Residential District Major Revision to EE Planned Residential District located at 9201 Fields Erdel Road.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye. I move approval of Resolution G 2022-77, resolution approving the submittal of the annual tax budget for fiscal year 2023 to the County Budget Commission.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
I move approval of Resolution 2022-78, resolution authorizing the Township Administrator to enter into a joint agreement between Hamilton County and the Board of Trustees of Symmes Township for the installation of flashing signals at various locations.
Second.
Discussion? Got rid of everybody pretty fast. Roll call?
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
I move approval of Resolution G 2022-79, resolution authorizing the Township Administrator to enter into a contract with Medi-Count for providing ambulance building and collections.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye. I move approval of Resolution G 2022-80, resolution authorizing the Township Administrator to sign a real estate purchase contract with Michael Opp and dispensing with the second reading.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
I move approval of Resolution G 2022-81, resolution authorizing the Township Administrator to enter into a contract with Medical Mutual of Ohio for providing health insurance coverage for the board, for the elected officials and full-time employees of Symmes Township.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I think I wanted some discussion of the pros and cons between the grandmothered medical mutual plan that would cost an additional $60,000 in premiums, and the medical mutual plan recommended by Assured Partners involving an increase in premium of $6,000. I just think, as a matter of fact, the choice, because you're talking large amounts of money, the choice should be clear for the taxpayers of this township to know what they're getting and why this is one is going to be picked over another. I would just like a little discussion on that, so I can understand it, being a taxpayer in this township also.
Well, I can say that we moved to a new company to represent us, to price out our insurance. And I haven't seen him. I don't know anything about, I mean, he told us when he was here that he was going to be here, he was going to walk us through it. And I honestly don't know. I feel like the year that we've been here, I haven't been happy with the policy that he presented. And so I kind of lost my trust in the company.
Wait a minute. What we're talking about right here is
It's Medical Mutual.
It's Medical
Yes.
Mutual.
And he proposed, yes, and the new plan that he proposed. I haven't, what I've gotten the past year, I can say I've not been happy with. The new, everything, so I kind of lost faith. So I know one of the biggest things about health insurance is that people stay employed at companies because they have good health insurance plans. And I don't see the benefit to the new company that we have. Does that make sense to what I'm saying? I guess I lost trust is what I'm saying in his recommendations.
But the past year, the medical mutual plan has not changed.
Right, the medical mutual plan has not changed, but the new one that he's saying, I don't have trust in, is what
Well,
I'm
it's
saying.
not in effect. It's never been in
No,
effect.
because
What-
I don't trust,
You don't
honestly-
trust the guy who recommended it.
Right, exactly.
Because
I
I don't have the
I just-
resolutions. I'm trying to pull them up.
it's my feeling. Ken, Phil, you want to take that one?
So 81 and 82, Resolution 81, which we're talking about right now,
Yep.
and the
It's only
following
for
Resolution,
MedMutual.
82, are tied together, correct? I guess that's a question for
somewhat.
Kim.
I mean, you're going to change both by your votes.
Mm-hmm. So Kim, 81
Well,
and
here
82 are
again,
tied
I'm-
together?
81 is not changing anything. 81 is just renewing our current plan.
Well,
Right.
I have a question in the back of my mind, and I don't know how to answer it. And it has to do with, we're with one broker, we were with Burnham and Flowers, and now we switched to Assured Partners.
Yes.
Both as brokers, both hypothetically shopped our insurance based on our history and employees and so on. And I would question in the back of my mind, in order to get a quote from MedMutual and Aetna and everybody else that they go through, United Healthcare, you have to pick a broker. So the broker currently is Assured Partners. So they go out and they find MedMutual, and I'm assuming, I haven't seen anything that says Med Mutual is the cheapest of all the others. Just, all I've seen is it's a 18% increase over last year. So, do we know any more about that? The real part of my question is, if we were to switch to Burnham and Flower, and they did the survey of all these other companies, Aetna, United Healthcare, and Medical Mutual of Ohio, would the estimate or the cost be the same for the same plan? That's a question I don't know how to answer, other than pick a broker and let them go do the work.
How long were we with Burnham and Flowers?
5, 6 years, maybe? Weren't we, Kim?
How long?
I have no idea. I want to say,
How long you been
you
here?
guys had them before I got here
How
in
long have you been
2017.
here?
Okay. Did they ever come forward with a recommendation for any other plans?
Yes.
Or any money-saving plans?
They did.
Well, they talked about different plans, and we always picked the grandmothered one, because we didn't know how things were going to change with federal
Obamacare,
legislation, if you will.
Yeah, I know. I was in on some of that.
We didn't know how those things were going to change, but we knew it was someday it was going to change. But we kept pushing it off, and we were
Like,
getting
I'd say
better rates by doing that.
You think an increase of 60 grand is a better rate?
No, I'm saying in the past. You asked me about the past, and that's what I'm talking about. In the past, the increases haven't been like that. Okay?
Ken, to answer your question in the packet, there's a comparison. So it's a comparison of Med Mutual, Anthem, United Healthcare, and Humana with all the costs at the bottom.
Okay, and the lowest cost was Med Mutual.
Med Mutual, yeah.
The plan that we have been using all along, the grandmother one.
No, this one's a different one. So this one is the Silver 5000 HSA, and it gives the individual deductibles of 5,000 and the family of 10,000. So it would be an increase because healthcare plans change over time, and you can't find the one, like you don't have it available. It's not available anymore.
Right.
So we're paying those increases to keep what we have, and we've been doing that for the last 5 years.
Okay. So to answer your question, Joe, I think we were with Med Mutual for at least 5, 6 years.
I think it's 2013 is when you guys went to them.
Okay, so 9 years. That predated you, I know
Yeah.
that, yes.
Yeah.
And before that, we had this
I can't remember what you said.
combine or something like that out of Sharonville that was good rates one year, and the next year they went up 25%, and we had to buy our way out of that.
Yep. Is that when you guys were
I
with
don't-
CLG?
Combine's not the right word. Collaboration, if you will.
Right.
Okay, and we had to buy our way out of that, and we went with Burnham and Flower at that time with Med Mutual, and we saved a bunch of money over what our renewal would have been. That's the history, as far as I know.
So the grandmothered plan that we're in, they cannot decline to supply that, correct?
Soon
They're
as we,
stuck with us.
soon as we change, we can't get back in it.
I'm
That's
not
the
talking
problem.
about as soon as we change.
I mean,
Right
I
now,
think it
that's-
year
has to do
after
with the
year,
federal
they
government
have to
legislation as
Until
to how
law
long.
changes, they have to offer it to us.
Right, if they decline to extend us not being part of community rating, then yes, we can be kicked off,
Yeah,
as long as the president keeps renewing it.
yeah. But this year, it's costing us 60,000 to stick with it. What's it gonna cost us next year? What did it cost us last year?
It was a low rate, right?
Yeah, we had like
4 or
an
5%?
No, it was like an 8 and 10% increase, like a blend of that.
And this year was what?
This year it's 18.
18%.
In previous years before that, it's been 2 to 3 to 4 maybe, and then last year was 8, and this year it's 18.
So is there a cap on what they can charge us in increased premiums for that grandmothered plan? Obviously not.
Probably not.
I don't know them.
I'll tell you, insurance across the board is sky high right now.
Well, I know
Premiums are double what they
Yeah.
were.
But
2 years
the
ago.
other plan that was proposed, that was $6,000 increase, that's also a medical mutual
that-
plan.
But
That's
that's
a- that's
a
a complicated
$10,000
plan.
deductible.
Yeah.
That's a
I know.
complicated plan. And the deductible, I think, is going to go up. Is that right, Kim?
10,000.
and,
No, the deductible would stay the same.
Okay, but-
The only thing that changes is there would be a copay with the prescription drugs once you reach your $3,000 deductible. So what our broker was proposing is to backfill that on the end with the HRA and then have custom design benefits. Like I don't know how they would set that up, but they could set that up potentially. But the problem is we don't know what that number is to budget for it.
but it would cost our employees more.
No.
Because they would be
No, it costs the
reimbursed.
township.
If they were to exceed the 3,000.
No, then they would have a copay, but then it would be covered by the HRA. Like you could backfill it and increase, instead of doing a $4,000 HRA, you could do one that was higher than that.
Which means it costs the township more money.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
I'm
that's what you
saying.
said.
So the differential between 6 and what was it, 60?
6 and
Is
60.
not 54, it's something less than that. Might only be 1,000 less, but it's a big number.
I thought there was a 10,000 deductible for a family.
That,
No, it's 3 and 6.
It just seems pretty stiff to me to pay out an additional $54,000
I agree.
for what? For the fact that we could stick with a grandmother program that could be gone next year?
Yeah.
Well, in order to do an apples-to-apples comparison, you'd have to somehow compute what that additional reimbursement will be. And is it 54,000? Is it a wash? Is it more than 54? Is this a good deal, or is it less than 54? Is this
So if we
not a good deal?
If we stick with the current one at 60,000 additional, might we still have to feed the, what is it you said, an HSA or an HRA?
Well, technically it's an HRA, but the old one that we had acted like an HSA, from what I understand.
Well, would we still potentially have to increase that per individual, even on the grandmothered plan?
No, because we still have the $4,000 limit. So if we stay with the plan that we have now
Yeah.
and go back to the old HRA plan that we have, then it would still be 4,000 across the board like it is now.
But the other from the same company that would raise rates by 6,000 for the premium, that doesn't have that
And
$4,000?
if we did go to the one that's where you have a $6,000, the MIWA, the Cozy MIWA,
Yeah.
then we would have to raise the HRA limit due to the prescription drug costs.
Okay.
But I don't know what those, I don't know what those numbers are.
But that, what do they call that plan, the alternate plan, not the current one we're on?
The Cozy MIWA?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cozy Miwa?
COSI and
Okay,
then
gotcha, okay.
MEWA.
All right, I knew it was a Miwa, but it still has the same deductible, same limits, right? 3,000, 6,000?
Yep, it would still be 3,000, 6,000, but the only difference is once you get to that, your $3,000 deductible, like right now, we're all used to our prescription drugs being paid for because you reached your deductible.
Okay. Well, let me ask,
But if you say, I'm just gonna pick on you, Ken, so if you reach your $3,000 deductible and you're in July, and you still have to pick up your prescriptions for August, September, October, November, and December, now when you go to the prescription counter, you're gonna have to pay a copay.
I passed it in March.
So you would have to then pay a copay. So what what we had proposed was increasing the limit on the HRA card so that copay could be picked up.
Well, let me ask this question. Who provided us with the Cozy Miwa plan?
It was the Assured Partners.
Yes,
Yeah.
not Burnham and Flower.
Right.
Okay. So we're talking about Burnham and Flower here, so we're not even talking about
Well, no, that's
Cozy
why,
Miwa.
if you guys want to go back to Burnham Flowers, then I just recommend that we stay with Medical Mutual, because I don't know how that would work with one company recommending it and another company coming in and trying to administer it. I just don't know how that would
But
shake out.
the number, the $60,000 increase or whatever, came from Assured Partners, didn't it?
No,
Because-
that was our regular renewal. The 60,000 is just our regular renewal.
Doesn't matter who the broker is?
No,
Oh.
it's just our regular renewal. Has nothing to do with the broker.
So that's a number that we got from these 4 companies? Did we survey them?
Yeah,
Or they
he-
just sent it to us? Who sent
No.
it to us?
Medical Mutual sends us on May 2nd, or May 31st is when we got it.
Okay,
And it said, here's gonna be your new rates.
okay.
And it was an 18% increase with all
Okay.
the different rates.
With that plan?
Right, with our same plan that we have right now.
Okay, so it doesn't matter whether with Burnham and Flower or Assured Partners?
Nope.
That's what it's gonna cost
That's
us
what
if
it's
we
gonna
keep on the
cost.
same plan with Med Mutual?
Right, so,
Okay.
when our broker now saw that we were gonna get an 18% increase, he went out, they went out, his team went out, and they looked at plans that were comparable to ours that we have now, which consisted of looking at Medical Mutual, Anthem, United Healthcare, and Humana. And here's all the different plans with all the different costs, and as you can see, Medical Mutual was the cheapest, but that was going to a $5,000, $10,000 deductible. So then, when I kind of turned my nose up at that,
Right,
he went and looked and found this Cozy Miwa,
okay.
which was only a 1.8% increase, but like I said, it would increase the co-pays. We would now have to pay co-pays on the prescriptions once we hit the deductible. But then he suggested, because I said, well, that's probably not gonna fly.
That was still a 3,000,
So-
6,000?
Yep.
Okay,
I said, that's probably not gonna fly. What can we do to make up that difference? And that's when he suggested that we backfill it on the HRA
so,
side.
so it's automatically a 5,000, 10,000?
No, it's a 3,000,
Okay, all right.
6,000.
You said no to that one, and you went the other, okay.
Right.
All right, so there's no reason to increase our allowance against the deductible just for that, but there is for the prescriptions or whatever.
Right, if you choose the Cozy
And
Miwa
once
plan.
you've met the $3,000
Right.
individual copay. All right. Sounds to me like a way to go. Other than who administers it. Does Burnham and Flower administer it?
Well, if that's what you guys want to do, I mean, I can talk to Michelle, we can, I mean, I don't think it matters, but I don't know that for a fact. It shouldn't matter, but I don't know.
Well, some of
You know-
these companies like Assured Partners probably have connections and so on with.
Right, and that's the only
with
thing
these
I'm
different
worried about.
agencies, and that's what they put together.
Right, that's the only
We
thing I'm
don't,
worried
we
about.
we don't have an alternate from Burnham and Flower.
Right, right,
We need an alternate from Burnham and Flower.
right, but we're too close to the deadline. That's what made me nervous, because it's middle of July and our renewal's August 1st.
Okay?
So,
How quick can Burnham and Flowers get information?
not in 2 weeks.
Why not? They want our business, they get it done in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's my opinion. They know all the plans that are out there.
It's not gonna happen in 2 weeks, I can tell you that right now. Yep, but they're just not gonna get the information back in 2 weeks, though.
I'd like to solve 2 issues here if we can. One, if you're not happy with what you're getting from the broker that you have and their associates, that's why the second item is up for grabs. But on the first item, which is the plan and how much it's going to cost us, I think I can live with the MIWA or equivalent, whatever.
Okay, so here's my problem with that. We don't know how much, like, the prescription is gonna cost us on the back
Well,
end.
we could
My
hypothetically
issue-
look back at what
You
people are
can't
spending.
go back to grant, yeah,
Who's-
but we don't have
who's
the
met
time
the
this year,
maximum?
that's the problem.
Who's met the maximum?
Here, that's not we just don't have a lot of time this year. And my issue is, I'm comfortable with what we have because I don't know, I don't want to say this because I don't want to be on camera. I'm not comfortable with,
That's a fair statement, you can make it.
I'm not comfortable.
Well, there's a reason why we didn't choose Cozy Miwa last year.
Because the price differential wasn't the same as it is now.
Right, it was gonna be an increase in our deductible and a couple other things.
I don't think we had apples to apples last year to this
Right,
year.
this is a different plan than what we were given last year.
Because she's already shopped in the sense she didn't like the 510.
Yeah.
She knew we wouldn't like it, so the 3.6.
Right, as
She's
long as
fought
he
to
stayed
get
with the
that
3.6,
and
I
got
told him that
options.
it would be, it could be plausible, but didn't know that for a fact.
And we got
So-
burnt on health insurance once before. That's another issue I have. I was here when we went through that.
Yep.
How much did we have to pay? $25,000, $30,000?
Something like that.
To get us out of it, to get us back into a.
Yeah, that was to save a few bucks.
Yeah, and see, that's my issue. So we don't know how much we're gonna have to add to the HRA, and is the new plan, it's,
So if we
Too quick.
switch Cozy Miwa, does that mean, does everybody get to keep their same doctors, their primary care? Is all that?
It's still Med Mutual. Yeah, still Med Mutual.
Well, Cozy Miwa
So-
isn't Med Mutual.
Yeah, it's Med Mutual. Same. Medical Mutual of Ohio, MIWA. It's just a group that you
Okay.
pay a membership fee
So
to belong to.
Assured Partners shopped this,
Yes.
okay, and across the board, Med Mutual is the lowest of the 4 companies they surveyed, even on the Cozy Miwa.
Well, Med Mutual is the only one that has the Cozy MIWA.
Okay,
All the other ones were named,
all right.
there's an Anthem Silver
So-
Blue.
So in answer to Jody and Phil's question there, if it's still with Med Mutual, you still have the same in-network physicians and so on, locations and what have you.
Yep.
All right.
So we're sticking with, this proposal would be stick with Medical Mutual for consistency, but we're getting it this different way through the MIWA. And what that translates to are higher premiums, not higher premiums, I'm sorry, lower premiums,
Lower
but
premiums.
higher deductibles.
No?
No,
No.
same
High
deductible,
deductibles,
but the only thing that changes is a
Reimbursement.
copay on the
Higher
prescription
copay.
drug cost
Okay.
once you reach your deductible.
Right.
And so then we would end up, the township, would end up covering that for our employees
If you so choose, yes.
to make it,
To make it, yeah, to
Apples
make
to
it, yeah,
apples.
right, right.
and so then we're rolling the dice,
Right, and then we just have to
Again.
figure out the logistics.
how much of a credit it ends up being.
Well,
Yeah,
Well, I'd be
why,
shocked.
wait a minute, why wouldn't it be appropriate just to increase the, what do we call it, the refund that the
HRA.
company gives? Right now, we're doing 2 out of 3, or 4 out of 6, right?
right.
Why wouldn't we increase it to 3 out of 3, or 6 out of 6, and be done with it? Because anything beyond that, even in the MIWA, wouldn't cost us anything. So it'd be like another $1,000 per employee
Times 15.
time, yeah, well, plus
45
dependents,
right there.
whatever.
You could do that.
Seems like that caps what it is, and it'd be cheaper than going to this other plan. I mean, going to Med Mutual's renewal. The thing is, you lose grandmothering, but you're gonna lose it someday anyway.
Right, you're gonna lose it eventually. I think what he was trying to do is step us down, because there's always the fear that, you have this plan, and then, if one of the presidents cuts us off, and then you have to jump off to another plan, then, you have to find another plan that's comparable, which sometimes you can't. In
It
this
may-
instance, we were able to find one.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking about what I said, is 3 out of 3 and 6 out of 6 or whatever, but I'm not sure how this thing changes. Once you're beyond the 3,000 deductible now, then they're gonna start charging you copays, and those could be pretty healthy copays if you're in
If
certain.
you're in the tier
if you're
4
in-
drug,
in-
yes.
In certain drug categories, it
Yep.
could be astronomical.
Yeah, because I think the tier 1, I think was like, it's a, tier 1, which is generic, is 0. So then tier 2 is $40, or I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Tier 1 is $15 after the deductible. And then tier 2 is $45.
That's per refill though.
Right, per
So
refill.
it could be 4 times a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or more.
75, it's a tier 3, and then 275, it's the tier 4. So if you're on the really expensive one, then that's when we would get,
Okay.
it would cost us.
It'd be hard to figure out.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, we had a list I gave you at the last meeting that was all the different tiers of drugs.
Yeah, but you
But
don't-
I have no way of knowing,
I know,
you
people would have to agree
Yeah.
to a survey
It's
as to
HIPAA.
what drugs were used.
Right.
Yeah, we're not going to find out.
Well, I don't want to know. So
Yeah,
I'm just
I
saying
agree.
I don't have any way of knowing.
I agree.
So that $54,000 difference just shrank.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have the budgeting.
Yeah.
We can't budget for it
Right.
because we don't know.
I would hope that it would be less than 54,000. You would hope that it would.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I would be amazed if it exceeded that. And that's for 1 year. Next year, don't know what that's going to be. Could be 60, could be 80, could be 90.
Then that's when you shop.
So
but
we could
then
switch
yeah,
at that
but-
time if it. If
Sure ought to be looking at it long
grandmothering-
before
Yeah,
July.
we're not.
What's that?
You should be looking at it long before July.
Right, that's
As
my
to
thing.
what we can do.
I mean, if the grandmothering doesn't make sense, then we jump it.
I don't have my copy of the resolution in front of me, Jim, but the one that we're talking about right now sounds like we're going to be with Med Mutual regardless. It's just which plan is included in this, the VWA or the renewal? In this,
In the resolution, I just did straight renewal.
okay. So you would have to write another one, or do you have a counter proposal to go with the VWA?
I did not have a counter proposal,
Okay.
but I can change it. I mean, we would have to have a special meeting though.
Okay.
Well, why?
You want to stay with Med Mutual?
I thought we just
18%.
we just went through the whole exercise. That the two plans are essentially the same from
if
a
you-
monetary standpoint.
Yeah, if you choose to do that, I know I don't have a vote, but I do have a voice, and I would like it on record that I oppose that, if that's what you choose.
Why? On record.
Why? Because I think you're taking two very comparable plans and choosing to spend $54,000 more than we have to.
We just went
Now,
through
could the
that
co-pays
exercise.
cost us some of that? Yes, but I don't think it'll come anywhere near 54 grand. That's my opinion. But I just want it on record that I do not agree with, if that's the way you go, I do not agree with that.
Well, we know that 54 is going to be reduced by 45. We just discussed that.
Right.
15 employees times $3,000.
No.
Yes, that's
Times-
45,000.
Oh,
If you do that.
how many,
Well, why wouldn't we
We
do
have-
that? That's to
How many-
make apples to
We have
apples
18.
coverage.
you know what, we have
17.
18 employees, but
Yeah.
you've got to count the dependents too, I think's where he is.
Say it again. Is he,
If,
you
if
just,
between all of us and our employees,
Right.
it isn't 18, it's 45, and we're increasing what we kick back to our employees and ourselves, is $1,000 increase, that's 45,000. And that's where Phil is, I think.
Yes. 54 that's a starting number. But then you have to inject realism into that in order to get an apples to apples benefit to our employees with what they currently are used to and expect. So we then have a $9,000 difference at best that
Versus-
then gets
well, it's
that
54.
then gets reduced by the copay. Right?
No, the copay's being reimbursed.
that's where the additional spending comes from.
Yeah, the 45,000 or whatever.
Or
You
instead
can't,
of.
you can't shrink it
No,
anymore.
we're
You
talking
already
about the
shrunk it.
prescriptions. We just talked about that.
But you pay them and you get reimbursed for it, is what I'm saying. If you increase,
Right, and so that reimbursement comes out of that $9,000.
no, comes out of the 54.
Yes, and we've already took 45 away from the 54.
Took 45 away, you can't count it twice, is what I'm saying. The 45 is to repay the employees for the co-pays,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So the co-pays are covered,
So
hypothetically.
is 45 a real number?
No,
or is it
I
higher?
we're estimating, I don't know. We ought to be able to know by the premiums we're paying. It lists everybody.
But you're not gonna have everybody that's gonna use,
Everybody doesn't use all their deductible.
right, or
But you're
take
covering them
prescription
for it.
drugs.
You're covering them for it. It
Right,
could be
but what
less
I'm-
than that.
But what I'm getting at too is later on in the thing, if we switch back to Burnham and Flowers, we also have to switch back to their HRA, which means the HRA is open for everything. So,
No.
well,
We'll put a
that's
kibosh on
what
that.
that's what you had before, and that's why everyone's so upset, because
No.
from my
The employees
understanding.
right now have already been educated you don't get your deductibles paid back on dental or vision.
But I'm just saying, that's what you had before. That's what,
Well,
I
that's the
had
way
no idea
Burnham and
that you
Flowers
had.
interpreted it, wasn't our interpretation.
I'm just telling you from what I was told, I had no idea that is what everybody was using their stuff for, but that is what it's being used for,
Okay.
or was in the past.
So Burnham and Flowers needs to be educated like Chard Snyder, that they won't pay
Yeah.
co-pays.
Our employees just need to be educated, and they're told not to do that. That's plain and
Period.
simple. Period.
Okay, well, I'm just letting you know, you guys tell me how you want me to set it up. I mean, when we get
No,
there.
I say no.
I think in a staff meeting, we have
No, we have to set the plan design when we do the HRA. When we get to Resolution 84, we have to make it very clear what those plan designs are.
Okay, we can do
Right.
that.
And I'm just saying, at a staff meeting, we make clear what is allowed and what's not allowed, and everyone can sign off on that.
Okay.
They'll abide by that.
Yeah. I think, do I sense all three of us agree here not to pay co-pays on dental and vision?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
You hear that, Kim?
Yep.
Consensus.
Okay. So, am I doing roll call? What am I doing?
Well, the one that's on the table right now.
Is our
is
regular one.
Is the $60,000 increase, the way Kim's written it.
Okay. So are we voting on that?
Yep.
Well,
Unless you change it.
Okay.
you know, I'm still struck by Joe's on-the-record comment. You know, you're camping on this $54,000, but if we're ending up paying $3,000 per employee more for reimbursables, right?
That's speculation.
See, that's the problem. It's speculation. We don't know this year because we didn't have the time to research it. And so that's why I'm being so cautious, because I've lived through this health insurance nightmare, and unless I am completely convinced that it's a better move, I don't want to do it. And I am not convinced. So I
Nor am I.
Okay, so that's the problem.
I'm not convinced of your position.
Well,
Yeah.
what? What?
I'm not convinced of your position. Your position is I'd rather be safe and spend
I'd rather be
$60,000
safe
more
than
dollars.
sorry. Yes, that's my problem.
That's the way I look at it.
I'm trying to be practical, and because Joe, you weren't here the last time that our insurance,
No,
we
I
had to
wasn't.
spend $25,000 just to buy us
No, I
out because
wasn't.
we had terrible
It
insurance.
might have been more than that. Might
I
have
think
been
it
40.
was. I think it was.
More like 40.
But so I'm not comfortable unless I know for sure, and I don't know for sure, and we didn't have enough time. It wasn't presented.
Yep, it wasn't presented.
in a timely manner. I haven't seen anybody from the group. I mean, there is no education, there is no nothing. So for me to go through with that, it's very hard because I've lived through it. And that's my position, and I'm allowed to have my feelings, and you can have your feelings, and you
Yes,
can
I
say
do.
what you want, but
But-
I can say what I want too.
Exactly. That's why we're having this discussion.
Right.
But, to my way of thinking, to play it safe by spending $60,000 neglects the fact that we can get by spending $6,000 in increased premiums, and then we have $54,000 left that, in case increased co-pays reach that maximum, then we've lost nothing. Money-wise, we've lost nothing. Whereas once we spend that $60,000, it's gone. There's no chance of saving any of it. So if we spend the 6 and have 54 left over, if you want to add that to whatever, the HRA, HSA, if the money's not spent out of the HRA or HSA, it stays in there. It doesn't get divvied up. So if you don't spend an increased $54,000 in the HRA, that's money you've saved.
Yeah.
I don't think
Point
it's,
made. Kim, can Burnham Flower administer this MEWA?
I don't know the answer to that, because they're not the ones that put together the plan.
Understand.
So, I mean, the only thing I can do is have you guys table this, and I can ask Michelle that, but then we would have to schedule a special meeting before August 1st.
Let's do it. I'm gone the 23rd to the 30th.
I'm gone the 29th on. 2 weeks.
So I've got 2 weeks, basically. Actually, this week and next week.
So we can see if Burnham and Flower can do it, and then if not, we'll just do the whole plan and work it out next year. I don't know what to say. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Can we table it then?
Yeah, so I guess,
So we're tabling
81.
through 84?
well,
81, just 81.
81, 82, 83, 84.
Not
No.
83.
81, 82, 84.
Well,
Okay.
why would, okay, what?
Right.
I thought you wanted to switch back to Burnham and Flowers.
Well, if they can't administer a plan that's beneficial, I think we need to talk about it, so why don't we table it until we know?
I mean,
Okay?
I think there's a good chance we're going to change.
and we're to change, for sure.
Okay. So I move to table Resolution G 2022-81, Resolution G 2022-82, and G 2022-84.
I think he just
No,
wants you to do one at a time.
you've got to do them one at a time. The other ones haven't been
Well, I tried
read
to do
yet.
them one at a time. All right. I move to table Resolution G 2022-81.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Lees,
Aye.
Mr. Bryant,
Aye.
Mr. Beck.
Aye. I move to table Resolution G 20. what?
You've got to read the title first, so it's on the
Jody can do it.
on the floor for consideration.
I move to approve Resolution G 2022-82, resolution authorizing the township administrator to change health brokers and sign an agreement with Burnham and Flowers for a medical, dental, life, vision benefits for elected officials and township employees.
Now you can move to table if that's,
Okay. Are we supposed to second first?
I guess you
Or just
second,
move to table?
then I move to table.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Bryant,
Oh, wait, we don't go, no, we don't say no and then table, do we?
Table.
We're just moving to table now, right?
the motion and second is to table.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move
So
the
they have to
table.
vote on it.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye. Let's see. I move approval of Resolution G 2022-83, resolution approving a pay adjustment for Luann Faulkner
Second.
for fiscal year 2022.
I'm sorry. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
I move approval of Resolution G 2022-84, resolution authorizing the township administrator to change health care reimbursement account provider to sign an agreement with Burnham and Flower for HRA benefits for elected official and employees of Symmes Township.
I move to table resolution G 2022-84.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
I move approve of Resolution G 2022-85, resolution authorizing the township administrator to purchase solar power flashing pedestrian signals for crosswalks at various locations in the amount of $20,056.96.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
And this covers us, 3 of them, 4. So we have Pinto, Misty Morn, Gateway, Union Cemetery.
Yep.
Gateway includes ADA ramps,
Yep.
and then we have some spare components.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
That's what you wanted, right?
And did we, did you aye? Okay.
Do we have any info on procurement?
You know what? I don't know. Let me see if he's,
You can let us know later. Just wondering if there's
Yeah.
a long wait.
I move,
Bill did tell me, I want to say it's like 12 weeks. Let me ask Bill.
Okay.
I move approval of the following expenditures, authorization for the township administrator to sign any necessary contracts, agreements, or paperwork. A, expenditure $5,753.96 for Motorola Solution to purchase 2 new radios. B, expenditure $5,269.87, ESO Solutions Incorporated for annual report software. C, expenditures then and now, $4,000 Environmental Enterprise Incorporated for hazardous household waste collection. D, increase the appropriations for line items number 2196-760-730-000 for $45,000 to $151,000.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah. Kim, what's this line item D? What's that for?
That is for the purchase of the property on Weekly.
Okay, thank you.
I already included it in the resolution, but I do both.
Okay.
Roll call.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Okay, so there's no executive session, so I move to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Lees?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Mr. Beck?
Aye.